Hello, I'm Janet Gale Francis, and these videos, this is much about proving who I am as it is about the crimes that exist in Australia, in Australian parliaments and the government generally, including the executive government and some factions of the judiciary. Now, in 24th of April 1988, I was inside Camden police station with a friend of the family. His name is Jack BASSET. He's a retired policeman. I'd known him from the day I was born. He was the best friends of my father, and they were both Freemasons. Now, Jack BASSET was there, and he was supporting what I was saying to police. I was giving police evidence about a long history of Freemason crimes. What happened during that particular evening, it was late in the evening, what happened during that particular incident was that Camden police officers, or a particular Camden police officer, shot dead Jack BASSET in front of me. And that was because he was giving evidence against Freemasons. They initially tried to frame me for the murder, and then they decided that because I couldn't hold the gun, because I was so traumatised, they decided that they'd do other things. I think they tried to kill me a few times, and in the end they associated me with a 1984 crime, which is this particular incident, the Father's Day shootings in 1984 in Mulpera. They associated me with that, with a publication in 1989, and then they medically mutilated me, and that's some of the 2012 MRI radiology, 2006 MRI radiology of my head. That proves I have illegal implants in my head and the left region of my head, but I have illegal implants everywhere. So as part of their attacks on me, they mutilated my face as well to change my visual appearance, and they added silicone to just change me completely. They gave me silicone in my chin, silicone in here, silicone into my nose, silicone in my forehead, silicone in my eyebrow region, and the silicone occasionally weeps out the pores of my skin. In the last 5 years, I've had it weeping out the pores in the crease of my eyelid. It would bulge around the eyelid crease, and then it started weeping out, and I had scabs of this plastic silicone for ages. And then it swapped over to the other eye, was weeping out the crease on the other one. When the silicone first went in the 1990s, when I was elected member of Wollondilly Shire Council, known as Councillor HALL, and everyone always referred to me as Jenny since I was 16. So despite being Jeanette, people referred to me as Jenny. So I was commonly known as Councillor Jenny HALL on Wollondilly Shire Council in the upper ward, the A ward, from 1995 to 1999, when I was illegally dismissed from my public office position in what you would call a political coup that was involving the Labor Party and Freemasons locally in the Wollondilly area. So they mutilated my face to try and make me look more like this person, and in the process, like I had silicone initially weeping out the pores of my skin, just here where the iPad sits on my glasses. And the consulting physician who was involved in my medical mutilations is Mohammed R. I can't pronounce his second name, last name Ahmed. He was educated in India and came to Australia as a new doctor, and he set up practice in the Wollondilly, Campbelltown regions, and he lived in Picton, New South Wales, when I was on Wollondilly Shire Council along the Razorback Road in Picton. He cauterised the weeping silicone and told me it was evidence of skin cancer, which, like, I believed him because I was a gullible person that believed authority, and I believed him because he was a registered physician, and I didn't for one moment think that he was lying to me until certain things happened, and then I realised he was a part of it. and certain things including me waking up during an illegal surgery when they were inserting something in my nose, and that something includes cables on the top of my gum and on the bottom of my gum that were inserted in the roughly about circa 1997. And you can see them there now, and they vibrate, these cables, to vibrate down my throat and make me cough and gag. My throat's constantly inflamed from these cables vibrating in my throat, and it's also changed the tone of my voice. I've got a deeper voice as a result of it. Now these implants are they're along the top of my head. You can see them in MRI. There's something going down to my left ear where there's something vibrating, and that's where a sort of like a screw thing is seen in the 2012 MRI. And in 2006 MRI, there's a huge infection around the illegal implant. It went in through an injection just to the upper part of my ear canal. I thought it was a pimple when it went in, because I logically, yet only thing I knew were pimples. What else did I know that would make a lot of pain and then a hole in your ear? There's nothing else in my mind other than a pimple had exploded in my ear. Despite the fact I never had any pimples as a teenager, I just naturally assumed that was what it was, because that's the logical explanation. I didn't know I was being attacked with illegal implants. It was just a multiplicity of evidence and a lot of fractured memories that prove in my mind and the logic of the fact of the presence of the implants that I was being systematically surgically raped and secretly drugged by my fellow councillors on Wollondilly Shire Council and my partner at the time, who I'd never married. It was Owen Hall. And one of the councillors on Wollondilly Shire Council was Lynette STYLES, and I knew her. I didn't quite realise that she was also Elaine SLOWMAN from Visyboard when I worked in Visyboard from 1981 to 1985. Visyboard at Warwick Farm in Scrivener Street. I worked in the office upstairs, adding the sales figures into the computer system for the runs in the factory. And Elaine SLOWMAN, she was the secretary for the general manager, Tony Featherstone. And Lorraine, who I believe was Elaine SLOWMAN's daughter, she worked in the dispatch area in the factory, which is downstairs, just under the general manager's office. So that's how I knew Lynette STYLES, but I didn't quite realise, because the only way that I twigged was she had different hair to how I knew it. Like, I don't look at people suspiciously. I take them on face value. I don't look at someone and say, oh, gee, you look like somebody else. You must be somebody else. I just take them on face value. If people want to pretend there's someone else, it doesn't faze me. They can go off in their little fairyland. It's not a worry to me. But it wasn't until that I saw her in a 2015 photo, I think it was, running for this federal seat of Hume, I think it was. She had her hair cut short, exactly how she had it cut when she was the general manager's secretary. And that's how I twigged it was her. I'm pretty sure I twigged it was her when I was on council, but I was drugged to forget, because I've been doped with amnesiacs illegally many times. I'm not a drug taker and I don't drink alcohol. I've never been drunk in my life. I've been tipsy, but I've never been drunk. And I don't take drugs recreational or anything. I prefer to be 100% in control. So it would have been, if I'd seen, I have a half memory that I saw her sleeveless, and seeing her sleeveless would have made me realise immediately that that was Elaine SLOWMAN, because Elaine SLOWMAN has disproportioned arm lengths. The top's longer than the other. I think the top's shorter than the bottom half. Most people have same length arm, top and bottom. Well, hers are shorter at the top and longer at the bottom. And I don't know what causes that, whether it's genetic or what. I wouldn't have a clue. That's her business. I don't care. It's just that's how I recognised Elaine SLOWMAN. And I have memories of recognising her, but then I can't remember the outcomes of it. Okay, so I have a whole pile of pictures that I've printed out that I want to explain. And I have a whole pile of books that I want to explain. And they're associated with these crimes. So I'll go through the books first, and I'll probably use the pictures from a different video. So this started, as I said, in 1988, 24th of April 1988. And the internet says that in April 1989, this book was published. This book, it actually looks reverse in what I'm looking at. But anyway, I hope it's right. This book, probably should. This book was published by Lindsay Simpson and Sandra Harvey. I stuck that newspaper thing on the front of it. Lindsay Simpson and Sandra Harvey are related to Elaine SLOWMAN. Sandra Harvey is her daughter, and Lindsay Simpson, I believe, is a twin sister of Raynor Unwin's. Him and Raynor Unwin and his wife, a daughter, a twin daughter. Apparently there's 3 daughters. Raynor Unwin had 3 daughters and 1 son, Merlin. The 3 daughters were named in 2012 in a newspaper story about the death of Raynor Unwin and his wife and the sale of their house in Scotland. Raynor Unwin owned, George Unwin or George, whatever it was. I can't really remember. I'm not going to go into it. But he has the name of Allen and Unwin. He's the Unwin in Allen and Unwin. And when this was, they're the book publishers. And when this was published in 1989, it was published by Unwin Proprietary Limited from Scotland, or Unwin Limited from Scotland. So the Unwin come from Raynor Unwin. And as his daughter is one of the authors, and she goes by the pen name of Lindsay Simpson. Okay, so that was published in 1989. I didn't know about it. The first thing I knew about it was in 1990 when 2 uniformed police officers and 1 police detective by the name of Paul Shields, who's named in this book as a detective, they approached me during a Toastmasters meeting that was in a private room in the Catholic Hub in Campbelltown. This was a Toastmasters Camden meeting, and all the members had obviously been associated with this police bust, if you want to call it that, because this was about the second meeting that I'd been to, this Toastmasters group. And like I said, they're from Camden, and they decided to have this meeting in Campbelltown, which is a fair way away. And so it was curious to me, but I just was new to it, so I just went along anyway and didn't worry about it. And when we were halfway through this meeting, one of the members of the meeting, his name is Martin Shields, and it turns out he was the brother of Detective Paul Shields, who was the plainclothes person that was orchestrating this arrest in a public place. And they approached me, the 3 of them. In the end, the 2 uniformed police officers drew their guns and pointed them at me as Paul Shields demanded that I prove my identity, that I prove I'm not Leanne Walters, who faked her own death in 1984. I grew up in Campbelltown. I moved to Campbelltown with my parents in 1962 when I was 6 years old. I went through Campbelltown East Primary School and Campbelltown High School when there was only Campbelltown High, St Gregory's and St Patrick's schools, Catholic schools. And I was in Campbelltown High School, which is the public school, from 1969 to 1972. I got my driver's licence at the motor registry, which was on the corner of Sturt Street and Lindsay Street in Campbelltown, and I got my driver's licence, my learner's permit, as soon as I could in 1973 when I was 16 years and 9 months, and I got my licence a little bit later in the August of 1973, my full black licence. So I was not only well entrenched in Campbelltown. I was also known to police in Campbelltown because my father was a Freemason, and he was a Master Mason by 1973. And a Master Mason means he was the grand poobah of his Freemason meeting. So the police knew me because all police were Freemasons, and they knew who the kids were of their Freemason mates. I was never in trouble with the police, never had a criminal record, never done anything wrong, never been arrested for anything until 2004, when Goulburn Police decided to arrest me because I complained about police officers illegally breaking into my house. But that's another story, which is covered in one of these books. So 1990, right? 1989, this was published. A year later, 1990, Paul Shields is trying to arrest, well, he had arrested me because I wasn't allowed to leave. I was being held at gunpoint with 2 police officers, demanding to prove my identity, which proves that Shields was a part of the scam, because if he had done his homework, he would have been able to trace who I was, because I've never been anyone other than who I am in my government records. So he would have been able to trace me. He would have known that I was not Leanne Walters. It was a bullshit move by uniformed police and police detective Paul Shields in 1990. So there was a gap for a couple of years where that apparently went out of print for some reason or other. Oh, I opened a business in Camden, New South Wales in the main street called Data Mouse Computers. I self-taught to build and diagnose computer problems. So I used to sell custom build hardware and like sort of off-the-shelf software. You used to be able to go and buy software off the shelf in the 1990s. So I opened a business, Data Mouse, and I operated that from 1989 to 1995, and I gave that up when I enrolled in a Bachelor of Economics in university. And for some reason or another, and I'm pretty sure I was brainwashed, but although I had no interest in local government, I ended up running for local government in Wollondilly Shire in 1995. So my interest was in getting a Bachelor of Laws because I was aware that I was subjected to illegal activities, even though I was so traumatised by Jack BASSET's death that I blocked it from my memory immediately. I still knew that there was something going on, and I tried to enrol in a Bachelor of Laws, but they wouldn't let me in the Campbelltown University. So I enrolled in a Bachelor of Economics, decided I would sidestep after a year or so in the economics degree. I had no problem with the economics course. I got a distinction in the computer course. I would have got a high distinction, like in the IT course of the component of Bachelor of Economics. Would have got a high distinction. Only the question that they asked was on old technology, and I answered on current technology. So I was a bit of a smart ass when it came to computers in the 1990s because, like I said, I run the shop, self-taught, and I used to repair all platforms' computers. So this was gone out of business after 1990s, and I don't know what happened in the interim, but I do know that during the entirety of the 1990s, I was surgically raped multiple times, like I said, with the illegal implants. And one of the first ones was when they cut open my spine above my coccyx and inserted something that vibrates to this very day. And they left, it was a long cut with sealed with black dissolving stitches. When I went to my local doctor, Dr. Ahmed, he just laughed and wouldn't investigate any of it. I was pregnant, I might add. When they did that, I was the 3rd trimester pregnant, and they also opened something in my mid-spine under my bra strap, inserted something there that also vibrates to this day, and opened something in this side of my shoulder, inserted something in there that vibrates and itches like hell to this day, because I have an allergy to gold, and I suspect they've done something, put something with some sort of element of gold in it, and it itches like you wouldn't believe. It's mind-numbingly, distractingly itchy, and I have to try and stop touching it because So I'll end up ripping my skin open. So I've got implants in my shoulder. I've got implants in the back of my neck here, and Med put something there, and he activated that with a pencil type object. And during one consultation with me, I also had a little mole people call beauty mark under my eye. He reached over during one consultation and burnt that off. They were taking away anything that would make me different to these Unwin girls. And like you might be able to see, I can, but I have sort of a long face, although it's a small head, but I have a long neck, unlike the Unwin girls, their necks are shorter. But the SLOWMAN girls, they have a bit longer necks. So I have a lot of ancestry from Scotland. They're from Scotland. So it would not be unusual that we have similar, we probably have cross or some similar ancestry in common because I'm DNA linked to what they call them, Cheddar Man in the south, and multiple, like hundreds of people in the in Scotland and England, and some in Ireland. And my mother's DNA goes back to, which is a very rare DNA, it's H1BB. It goes back to Norway and the early Anglo-Saxons. So, I won't go into that. It's in the book anyway. So, in 2001, this new book, this was the 1989 version. In 2001, they produced this one. I'll add right now because I've got to scratch my nose. The reason I got to scratch my nose, it's from the cables that they inserted circa 1997. They make the tip of my nose itch like hell. And they also put something in the tip of my nose, and my nose has gone, nostrils have gone hard and collapsed inwards. That's why I always look like I've got flared nostrils. They're hard, collapsed inwards, makes it hard to breathe, and whatever's in my nose has pushed my nose downward, and that when I breathe out, I can feel the air hitting the top of my lip. It's hard to breathe through my nose all the time, but it's part of the illegal implants. And itching my nose and my face is all part of the illegal implants. It's got nothing to do with me lying. It's the illegal implants because they vibrate and they itch. The vibration makes them itch. Okay, so, and I will just go on. The illegal implants include, where's that light? Include, like I said, silicone. And because my skin was stretched with the silicone, now it sags dramatically. You expect wrinkles with old age, but this is saggy skin from the silicone injections. That's all that's from. That's from the silicone injections that it made my face fat. Now, they used it in 1990s to make me look like one of the Unwin girls, and then they've used it now, since I've come to South Australia. They use it to say that I'm a drug addict and my skin is like this because I'm a drug addict and I'm an alcoholic. And they've also added in she's a prostitute too. So this is all the opposite of who I am. I had my teeth out when I was 12. I had my lower teeth out when I was 12 because of something that happened. I'd witnessed a Freemason murder and rape as a child, and that was part of the punishment, I think. So I won't go into that, but that's made me look completely different. I look everything. The illegal implants has exaggerated my long nose, exaggerated my chin. I should have a slightly upturned chin. I used to cry about it when I was a teenager. I didn't want to have an upturned chin like my father. But now it points down all the time, which isn't how it's supposed to be. It's only supposed to point down when I smile, not when I'm sitting rested or talking. So they've changed my face completely, and my mother didn't even recognise me when I approached her in the 1990s. She goes, "Who are you?" So for the fact that my own mother didn't recognise me, it indicates how much they've changed me. Like, I don't recognise me. When I look in the mirror, it's not me, it's somebody else. So this one come out, that's annoying now. This one come out in 2001. And the reason I discovered this one in 2001, it's just a new cover with a little bit different inside. I'm not really sure what's inside, but oh, I know the difference. The difference is this one was published by Alan and Unwin. Whereas the other one was published by Unwin Hyman. This one's published by Alan and Unwin. They come out in 2001. And the reason I found that in 2001 is because my next door neighbour, I'd moved to Branxton, which is between Newcastle and Cessnock. I'd moved from there, from Macarthur area to Branxton, to get away from the freaks who were calling me this Leanne Walters person, and to get away from the people who were physically assaulting me and secretly drugging me. I thought, well, you know, I'll move and I'll be fine. Everything will be over and they won't follow me. But that's not how it is, because the people doing it are the police and the Freemasons. So they're following me wherever I go, and they have the authority to interfere with my life and lie to other people, and other people in departments believe them because they're the police. Who else do you believe? So anyway, this was published in 2001. And like I said, the reason I found out it was published in 2001 was because my neighbour was talking about it. He had a couple of mates over and they were having a barbecue. He had a Harley Davidson in his yard and they all come up on Harleys, and they were on their back patio having a little barbecue and talking to each other, having a drink. And I heard them say something that about, I can't remember what the word was, but it was something that I used to hear constantly when I was at Wollondilly, whether it was Brothers in Arms or whether it was Freemasons. I'm not, or whether it was Leanne. I know it was Freemasons, but whether it was Brothers in Arms or Leanne Walters, I can't remember what it was they said. But I was in my backyard, which was butted up. Where I was my garage. I was in and out of my garage or shed, which butted up to their fence, and they were like 20 metres away, the length of a long car away. So, 20 metres. So I heard them say this, and I just looked up instinctively to see if they were looking at me. And they were. And they all turned at the same time. They turned their head to the right. Looked like somebody had a string and pulled them. So they all turned to their right. So I went to the bookshop in Cessnock and the Book Den, I think it's called. I'll give them a plug. And purchased a copy of this. I went through it. That was the first time I'd seen this book. I got this one from the library in Goulburn. I pilfered it and then paid for it. So this 2001 was the first time I'd seen this book. Apart from in 1990 when Paul Shields had arrested me at the Toastmasters meeting, he had this book and he was waving it up above his head saying this was his evidence that I was Leanne Walters, like a fucking paperback. Anyway, so this was in 2001. I went to Alan Unwin. I went to the police. I went to the police commissioner, and nothing happened. And nothing happened because police were involved in the 1984 crime that this has been covering up since 1989. The 1984 crime is the falsification of the death of Leanne Walters, that Leanne Walters never existed. It's a figment of everyone's imagination. She never existed. And in 2001, to support this book, Alan and Unwin produced this book, The Brotherhoods, and they mentioned the Brothers in Arms book in this several times. And this Arthur Veno I tried to contact, but he's apparently a figment of his own imagination as well because he was uncontactable. So I had multiple attempts to resolve that. I'd gone to police and all the pictures involved with what I'd given to the police, and I'd proven my identity, and I'd proven that it was that the 1984 allegation of Leanne Walters, I'd proven to the police commissioner that was all bullshit. So the police commissioner's response was to outlaw me and tell me that he wasn't going to investigate anything that I'd said to him. So by 2012, they decided to produce this book. And this book is the new version of the same two books. It's a new version. This time they've taken my photo out of it. These two other books had my photo in it when I was 28, affixed to a document they called a sex license. And they called me a cheap little slut in this book and all sorts of horrid things. They say I'm a bikie mole, and they used my oldest son's Christian name and claimed that he was my boyfriend. And on the shit was with this. It was very offensive, very criminally defamatory, and police wouldn't address it because police are involved. Police are the offenders in creating the fake Leanne Walters in this particular book. And this book. And in this book, they produced a new photo of Leanne, but this photo that they produced was a girl about 10, I think you would say this girl was. Whether it was who it was, I don't know. I'm not even going to surmise it. And to further cement the bullshit, the federal government and state of New South Wales created a television mini-series, and they say specifically not based on the Milpera murders in 94, they say based on this book. Hang on. This is the illegal implants. Vibrating. This is a throat spray. Get it from the supermarket. It's got a local anaesthetic in it. It stops the vibration. So, or at least I don't feel it. So they produced this. The New South Wales government and the federal government funded the production of a television miniseries based on the book, not based on the facts, not based on the crimes of 1984, but based on this book. So who did they use as the photo of Leanne? Was it the dark-haired girl that they had in the newspaper? No, it was a girl with bleached hair, and a bleached blonde hair, which comes out of colour, which is exactly how my hair was when I was 15. Oh, and I add, in this book, they say the girl is 15, right? In each one, they say the girl is 15, the girl is 15. In 1984, when this crime was first reported, they said she's 14. The coroner's report to me says the records say consistent with the stated age of 14. The stated age was supposed to come from Pamela Walters, the mother of this fake Leanne Walters, which I'm presuming is actually Lynette STYLES, aka Elaine SLOWMAN. So they used this story as a 15-year-old girl. When I was 15, I had bleached my hair, and I looked similar to the depiction of Leanne Walters that they used in the TV miniseries. I had long hair, and it was bleached, and when my hair's bleached, it goes a reddy colour because I've got so much copper in my hair. And they said she was 15. Well, when I was 15, I was raped, and I was raped by the rape was arranged by Rhonda Walk, whose father was a police officer, and I believe her brother Neil went on to become a police officer in Newcastle, or a detective in Newcastle. And I would presume that Rhonda Walk herself also become a police officer, because that's generally what happens in the family. They all follow their parents through. So I was raped when I was 15. So I guess they decided that they would use this as 15 and not 14 when they had my photo, to try and make me think it was the people who raped me when I was 14 who was behind it, and not the Freemasons, because at this stage, it's only like recently that I've come out of the fog of remembering Jack BASSET's murder. I was so traumatised by it, because it wasn't just Jack BASSET's murder. It was the fact that when I was 15, I was raped, and people involved in raping me were my best friends. Elizabeth Selsby was a friend of Rhonda Walk's in primary school, and it was Elizabeth Selsby and Rhonda Walk conspired to have me raped. And Elizabeth was my best friend, you know, and, well, I was devastated that they'd done this to me. And I was raped during an all-girls birthday party at my friend's place. And, like, I wasn't into boys when I was in high school. Like, I mean, I liked boys, but I wasn't boy mad. You know how some girls are boy mad. I wasn't. I really did not want to have a sexual relationship with any boy in high school. I just didn't feel I could cope with it. Possibly because of the trauma of my childhood, because I'd witnessed when I was 11 the murder and rape of 2 little boys in a Freemason meeting. So I had that trauma. Like, I was raped myself when I was a toddler. So I had, and I'd always remembered that being hurt, but I'd never realised it was rape. My adult brain had never worked out it was rape until the 1990s, when it all started to cave in on me. And so, like, I've had a very traumatic childhood, and I just kept shoving it to the back of my memory and just not letting it affect me, because I was really determined not to let their shit ruin my life, because I didn't turn to drugs. I didn't turn to alcohol. I wanted to go to university. I wanted to study archaeology, and I wanted to leave Australia and go back to England, where my ancestors come from. But they stopped me. So I didn't do this when I remember. So the trauma of being raped when I was a toddler, the trauma of, when I had hepatitis, that was traumatic, because I had hepatitis because of the government incompetence at my primary school. Most of us got hepatitis. It was an epidemic. We got the hepatitis because they had a transpiration bed on site, and the state government, in their wisdom, decided, it was a really reasonably new school. It was built in 1960s. I went there in 1962. So the state government, in their wisdom, decided to erect the lunch seats in the same area as the transpiration bed for the sewerage. So we were forced to sit there, and we would some would sit on the ground, because not all the seats were, there wasn't enough seats for all of us. We'd have to sit in that one spot to eat lunch and recess every day. And so we ended up getting hepatitis because of the shit that was flowing in the ground, like kids play in the dirt, put your hands in your mouth without washing your hands, and we got hepatitis A, which there was only one hepatitis at the time, but it's hepatitis A. So we were basically eating shit. I was off really sick for months, and then they made me repeat a year. And most of us, I think, who got hepatitis severely repeated a year. And that angered me. I refused to do the work in that second year. I had to repeat in 1966. And I sat most of that year refusing to do any of the work, because I was so angry at the fact that they didn't recognise what they'd done to us, and then they punished us for being sick. Anyway, so, and then I had my teeth out, my bottom teeth out, when I was in 5th class, which was 1967. And then when I got into high school, I was attacked by girls 2 years ahead of me, because I was my brother's younger sister. And then when I turned 15, like I started high school, I was 13. Then when I turned 15, I was raped, because I refused to be Rhonda Walk's best friend, because her brother was best friends with my brother. She figured I had to be best friends with her, I guess. I don't know. She was a psychopath. She obviously still is a psychopath. No bloody brains in a stupid head. So I had that when I was 15. I was raped, and then my parents, it's just a never-ending story. I was raped again. Because I was raped when I was 15, I was raped 3 more times, and I was pack raped, and they all decided I was a gangbanger. And so I ended up retreating and not going anywhere. By the time I was 17, I was a mother, and I just didn't go anywhere. And then my father made up an excuse that my oldest sister, who was living in Geelong at the time, made an excuse that she was ill and needed my help. And so they packed me off down there. That was in 1974. They packed me off down there, and they kept my oldest child, who was about 10 months old. And they told me that I could come back when my sister was well again. I was sent down there to nurse her. Like, I was still a child, still 17, so I had to do what my parents told me. And so I went down there, goes down to Geelong, finds my sister's fine. There's nothing wrong with her. and I had no money to get back home to my child. And the whole thing was my father wanted my son. He stole, like a Rumpelstiltskin move, he stole my firstborn child. And so that went on for ages, and he was walking around town telling everybody, and he convinced my mother that he was my child's father. Oh, he wasn't, but he convinced everybody that he was. And so I had that defamation. There's no wonder nobody wanted to be anywhere near me. And so it's just a constant array. And then by the time I was getting on top of things, I was emotionally stable. But like I said, I kept on pushing everything to the back of my head, trying to have a normal life sort of thing, trying not to let anything affect me. And I just pretended mum and dad were the perfect parents and just still associated with them, because that was important to me. That was important to make me mentally healthy. And it worked, because in the end, I am mentally healthy despite all the shit. I'm very, very strong mentally. But so by the time that Jack BASSET was murdered in front of me, I had all this other trauma. So instantly I blocked it out of my mind. And so, and this is the implants. They've got implants in top and bottom lips. It comes down here, then goes down to my chin. Anyway, so Jack was murdered in front of me. I blocked that out. And it wasn't until the late 1990s some of it was coming back to me. I'd remembered a heap of stuff. But it still wasn't until the last decade that I remembered all of it. It just, because I've been away, separate from everybody. I haven't had anyone influence me. I've not kept friends since I moved to Adelaide in 2004. I've not had any friends at all. I'm not associated with anyone. I did try in 2015, but I got people who were peddling the bullshit that I was a drug addict, and so and that was police families, like the mothers of police officers in Christie's Beach, and a person that used to be a prison warden in Adelaide. They were peddling this bullshit that I was a drug addict and I was mentally retarded and all this other shit. So I've only stayed in that group for a couple of months, and that was it. So I've not kept company, not because I don't want to keep company, but because every time I do, it's infiltrated by Freemasons who tell lies about me and say all sorts of shit. So I will not be in that sort of environment. They went on to, when I did get evidence of the surgical rapes, they went on to create a whole secret record of me having mental illness, and they diagnosed me as schizophrenic delusional. I think the schizophrenic part was to go with the illegal implant that they put in my ear, because I get a lot of interference from that. But there's a lot of other things that go with it, like I'm a seer, and if you read my book, which I'll get to in a minute, you'll probably understand a little bit why they decided the ear implant. But anyway, I wrote a little book in 2018 because I needed to put something out in the public. And then I was also running for local council in Onkaparinga, and people from the Labor Party and the Liberal Party were associated with what was it? There was an Onkaparinga Facebook page that was supposed to expose corruption in the local council, but it was just peddling a almost Nazism sort of approach. And they were criminally defaming me because I published this 2018 book. And I just published a little bit of what I had. I still hadn't had the Freedom of Information documents that proved that the government had been secretly criminally defaming me with a whole pile of bullshit. I still hadn't had that. But they were defaming me over the fact that I left council in 1999, and they say I left council, I wasn't sacked illegally. And they even, somebody complained to the Electoral Commission that I was it breached the Act when I was running for council by saying that I'd been illegally sacked in 1999 from Wollondilly Shire. This is when I was running for a position in Onkaparinga Council in 2018. So whoever it was that works that particular act contacted me from the electoral office, and I responded back, and there was never any legal action against me because what I was saying was true, and they have to prove that that I'd said something illegal. If you're going to say something like that, they've got to prove that I said something illegal, and I can prove that I was illegally sacked. So there was no criminal action because I was in the right. And so therefore that gets buried. The press doesn't acknowledge that. The press hasn't acknowledged any of this from my side. So in 2022, I attempted to sue, after I got my Freedom of Information documents, I attempted to sue the three governments, the New South Wales government, the federal government, and the state of South Australia government. I attempted to sue the three governments and named physicians. I only chose physicians because they were the ones spearheading this criminal defamation of physicians employed in state government in South Australia, and a med who had illegally claimed consultations with me in 2013 and 2014. And people who from Wollondilly Shire who'd criminally defamed me in a publication that I was to discover later. So that should probably go here. So in 2014, I was illegally imprisoned under the Mental Health Act at state election time. This imprisonment was associated with a false claim in secret health department records in South Australia, a false claim that I had claimed a minister of New South Wales Parliament had raped me and this claim was, and the year was associated with 1989. It's not clear because it was just a one-line statement that I was delusional over a false allegation of rape involving a New South Wales Minister of Parliament and the year 1999. It was never mentioned which parliament, whether it was federal or state, and there was never any mention of who this person, who this alleged minister was. They didn't actually use the word parliament, so I don't even know if it was a minister of church or a minister of government. So it's all unclear. But this one-liner was written in health department records, and the health department said this exists in the database, and it existed from that point on the 14th of July 2012. That was where it started. It was started with this alleged telephone call from alleged Christie's Beach constable with the last name of Weatherall, no first name. And at that time in 2012, J. Wilson Weatherall was the Premier of South Australia. So whether there really was a Constable Weatherall in Christie's Beach Police Station, only the South Australian Police Department can answer that. But in this health department records is an allegation that a Constable Weatherall said that I had made a false statement about being raped. So for a police officer to say that, there has to be some record. There is no record of it, right? So for a police officer to ring up the health department and say, hello, I want to see if this person can be detained under the Mental Health Act, right? They have to have some evidence. They can't just ring up and do this. And the health department have to put the evidence in their records, but they haven't. All they've got in their records was this one-liner saying that I'd made this false complaint. And this false complaint statement come from a police officer giving the inference or the innuendo that police have investigated it. They haven't investigated it because I never made the complaint, and the complaint never existed. It's all bullshit. So that was in the secret record in 2012, and that happened 5 days after I got evidence of the illegal screw-shaped implant in my ear in MRI. 5 days or 6 days after. So there's a reason. There's a what do you call that? There's a motive to criminally defame me as mentally ill. So that was July 2012. Halfway through the election period. In January 2014, I was illegally imprisoned under the Mental Health Act. And that involved a conspiracy to imprison me involving Andrew Robert Champion, who's a psychiatrist for the State Government Department, Georgina Cheng, who's another state psychiatrist, and a number of other officials in the state government. One is a nurse and a couple weren't. But it was a health department email series sent amongst these persons, one involving John Strawn, and Strawn is my mother's maiden name. So these people were conspiring to have me criminally, they were criminally defaming me, but they were. It was a terrorist plan to have me imprisoned under the Mental Health Act, and they brought that to fruition. And I think it was about the 21st of January 2014. And eventually the Mental Health Act orders were signed by, Andrew Robert Champion didn't sign any. He kept right out of it, which is what Freemasons do. They make the bullets and get other people to fire them, hypothetically. So Georgina Cheng, she signed the first one, and the criteria for signing a mental health order for mandatory detention is that you've examined somebody and you've found that they have this mental illness that needs to be treated, right, forcibly treated. So I was videoing them, and twice during the video she admitted that she hadn't examined me. She imprisoned me after I told her to get off the property. And so she admitted she hadn't examined me twice in the video as they were at my house. Coffee. So she admitted that she had not examined me, and she decided that she was imprisoning me, and it would be determined within 24 hours after I was examined. So in Georgina Cheng's mind, she was allowed to imprison me under the Mental Health Act, and somebody else would decide whether or not she'd done something wrong. That was her own words. So it was it somebody by the name of Nance the next day who signed the order. And when I said to Mr. Nance, that is a psychiatrist at Flinders in Bedford Park, when I'd said to this Mr. Nance, I said, Georgina Cheng had not examined me. She had not diagnosed me. She had not examined me. I said, I've got it on video that she hasn't. And he said to me, Georgina wouldn't do that. Sorry about that. as if he'd had a love affair with it. He was really upset that I'd said that about her. And so he immediately signed the thing and said that I was delusional. So that's so we got Georgina Cheng, Mr. Nance, and then it's a young Mr. Telfer. I think he's a Richard, a bit of a Dick Telfer. I don't know. Can't remember his first name. A young Mr. Telfer. There was a Telfer at Campbelltown High, and that's why I remember his name. A young Mr. Telfer, who was probably about 6 months a physician, decided to apply to the to the Guardianship Board for long-term detention order against me because I had my teeth out when I was 18, 20, 19, I don't know, 1976, whatever that was, 20, because I'd had all my teeth out. Because by 1976, the Freemasons in Camden were refusing to do any dental work on me. So I was in a lot of pain with teeth that needed fillings, a lot of pain. And I decided the best way to address the pain issue so they couldn't use my teeth, my rotting teeth, as something to assault me with, to punish me for being a witness to their crimes, the Freemasons. I decided to get them all out. I had my teeth out I had rotten teeth. I had a chipped tooth at the front here. My sister had hit me with something, and I had a chipped tooth. So I went through puberty like my teeth were a mess, right? I had no teeth in the front. There was 6 teeth missing in the front down the bottom. Chipped teeth, rotten teeth up here. And in the end, I thought the only way I'm going to deal with this, because I was in so much pain, they wouldn't give me any pain relief. They gave me sugar tablets for pain relief. So fucking abysmal. So I was in a lot of pain. And the only way I get relief was from alcohol. I thought, I'm not going to become an alcoholic. My father's an alcoholic. I'm not going to do this. I had my teeth out. So I had my teeth out in Campbelltown Public Hospital, and the person who took my teeth out was a dental technician. So fast forward to 2014, this Mr. Richard Telfer decided that I had my teeth out in 1976 because I was schizophrenic. So, and that was grounds to imprison me in 2014 because I had my teeth out in 1976. And this was the shit that they recorded in state government record in South Australia. So I was forcibly drugged, forcibly imprisoned, and this went on for months. I appealed the decision, and the state court couldn't pull their freaking finger out of their butthole until July 2014. So January, February, March, April, May, June, July, six months was when it came to the district court for appeal. 6 months. For 6 months, I was being forcibly drugged with schizophrenic medication, which made me extremely tired, made me sleep all the time. It was shit. So 6 months. So I won the appeal immediately. I had the lawyer. I got a legal aid lawyer for that. Luckily, somebody helped me with it. The vibrations make the mucus loosen in my sinuses. So you'll see all the red around my nose. That's from the vibration. Oh. Anyway, lost the train of thought. I'll have to cut that bit out. And the legal aid lawyer, the legal aid lawyer I got, he sent a letter of confirmation because I was having memory problems, because I'm pretty sure they were giving me amnesiacs in with their drugs because they were injecting me. I had to have an injection once a week. So I'm pretty sure they were putting amnesiacs in with the injection because I was having memory issues as well. So I had a lawyer. I think the guardianship board ordered that a legal aid lawyer would represent me in the appeal. I can't even remember the appeal. I can't remember I have a very, very vague recollection of being at the district court. I'd forgotten about it almost immediately. It was only that I asked him to send me a letter to acknowledge what had happened in court. And I said, because I just won't remember. And it was probably partially because of the trauma of it all. But I'm pretty sure I was being drugged with amnesiacs because I had a lot of problems with short-term and long-term memory. And so I'd completely forgotten that the lawyer had given me this letter, and it wasn't till a couple of years later that I stumbled on this letter and found it. And so the lawyer had sent this letter and said that I'd been successful in the appeal. I'd spoken in the courtroom to there was 3 people in the appeal panel. I'd spoken to them, and I'd said, like, they had no evidence, like, I won't go through that again. So I won the appeal and I had to go back to the guardianship board. So by this stage, like, I was told, the state government told me I had to still keep having the drugs. Despite the fact that I was on appeal, despite the fact that I'd won the appeal, I was told if I didn't keep coming in weekly for the drugs, they were going to send the police around to drag me in and force me to have drugs. I'd be assaulted. So here I'd won the appeal and I was being still forced to have these drugs. And then it wasn't until the 2nd of October that it went back to the guardianship board. So July, August, September, October, another 3 months. And another 3 months of being illegally drugged, despite that I'd won the appeal. And I went back to the guardianship board. I didn't even go. But by this time, I just couldn't give a shit. I just couldn't give a fucking shit level. I was just going in weekly, doing that and just trying to get on with my life and trying to resolve the issues in my head because I was pretty well mashed. That's why I say I'm pretty sure they were giving me amnesiacs in with the medication, in with their injection. So when it come to 2nd of October, the guardianship board overturned it. And they, like in the district court in the appeal, they said they can only rescind the current order. And the current order was from February. They said they couldn't do anything about the January order because that had already expired. So they could only rescind the one that happened in February, I think it was. So it went back to guardianship board and they revoked the order. So that made it like it shouldn't have existed. But then it wasn't till, like, that was 2014. It wasn't until 2018 that I got the Freedom of Information documents that said that the staff there was somebody at the guardianship board had decided to treat the revocation order as if it hadn't existed, as if it hadn't happened at all. It's vibrating on the tip of my nose. So they decided to treat it as if it hadn't happened at all and sent me out a notice when the original order was supposed to expire, which was a 12-month order. They sent me out this notice and said the order has expired. This was in January 2015. Well, the order was revoked in October 2014. And the guardianship board, somebody at the guardianship board was treating as if it hadn't been revoked. And staff in the State Health Department were writing up as if it hadn't been revoked. And they were going, somebody said, they doubted whether it had been revoked in the record. And this is the shit that they go on. And as soon as I had the revocation order on the 2nd of October, the State Department are creating another document on the 15th of October claiming that I had mental illness. This was immediately after it had been revoked with the guardianship board. So they're completely ignoring the court order, completely ignoring the guardianship order. They're off on their own little tangent, doing their own little thing, obsessed with diagnosing me as mentally ill. So I would suggest that was Andrew Robert Champion doing that because he was the head of the Noarlunga Emergency Mental Health section who was the ones behind spearheading this criminal defamation of me. And Andrew Robert Champion's brother, Nicholas Champion, who's the current State Minister for Housing in South Australia, he was the president of the South Australian Labor Party in 2006 when the Noarlunga Emergency Mental Health Service and the Noarlunga Housing Department decided to start the mental health record that they had on me on the 17th of March 2006 when I applied to have my name added to the waiting list for state housing. So Mr. Champion, who was head of the department that created this fake mental health record on me in 2007, his brother at the same time, he was president of the South Australian Labor Party. Pretty sure he's his brother. Could be a cousin. I'm guessing they're brothers, like blood brothers. So now we've got we've got close to about 60 registered physicians or nurses in South Australia who've criminally defamed me. So there's close to about, let's say, 60 to 100 government public office in the health department whose best interest is to continually say, consistently say, I have a mental illness. And it's not just the State Australia Health Department, it's the police officers who were involved in being at my address on the 21st of January 2014 to illegally trespass on my property. And they grabbed hold of my arms and said, come on, you're going to be detained under the Mental Health Act. So they assaulted me, like common law assault. You could call it criminal assault. You could call it aggravated criminal assault because they had no grounds. No one had any grounds to imprison me under the Mental Health Act. That was decided by the Guardianship Board in October 2014. So no one had any grounds to come onto my property on the 21st of January when they imprisoned me in 2014. So you got the health department and the police department. You got the ambulance department who were there loading me into the ambulance, and it seems like the video says that one of the ambulance officers was offered a bribe to participate in illegally imprisoning me. That's gleaned from what was done in the video. What he did in the video, like he danced around on his toes, like where's my cut sort of style. So there we are in 2014. So during 2014, after I'd been illegally imprisoned, I'm thinking it was about March. So I had the first order in January, 21st of January. The second order, they kept me for 2 weeks imprisoned in the Nutters ward in Bedford Park at Flinders Hospital. They kept me there for 2 weeks, drugging me daily. And I was there with people who'd been convicted of serious sex offences. And like they were, and it was a combined male-female ward. I was actually subjected to disgusting conditions there. We were forced to live in this common male-female area, forced to share toilets and showers, and one of the blokes was urinating in the hand basin and doing all sorts of crap. It was like they should not have been in mixed open company like that. That's a really dangerous situation because one of them became fixated on me. I was wondering whether he was a Freemason had come in to harass me. He became sort of fixated on me and was following me around the place. So that was disgusting. That was a life-threatening situation when they imprisoned me for 2 weeks at Bedford Park Flinders Hospital. So I was there for 2 weeks, and then they did a community treatment order. So because they have a mandatory detention order and a community treatment order where you're allowed to go home, but you have to come in. And if you don't come in to get your injections once a week or whatever the fuck it is, you'll be assaulted by police and then imprisoned. I mean, it's like Nazi Germany. So they didn't have to prove anything. They just do this because they wanted to. They had a political cause and they were allowed to fulfill it. And I'd gone to go to police, go to my local member, and they all say, oh, you've got a mental health record. That means you must be crazy. We're not going to intervene. And so this lie is sort of like just gets compounded. Even though it's been proved wrong, police won't act. The police will not investigate these illegal orders. Section 102 of the Mental Health Act says it's illegal. You'll get a term of imprisonment if you sign a mental health order for someone who doesn't have a mental illness. There's imprisonment and a monetary fine. So this is a criminal offence to sign a mental health order. And there was multiple physicians in the state government who'd done that, and the state police refused to take any action. Despite that, the orders have been revoked by the Guardianship Board, proving that they were illegal in the first place. So we live in this insane world where nothing legal happens. The only ones who get access to their legal rights are terrorists, apparently. So in 2014 March, I decided, well, okay, I'm pretty sure this is behind why I was illegally imprisoned. So I applied to the federal government. And I decided to take out a Copyright Act infringement over my photo being published in this Allen and Unwin book. And like I said, I'll see if I can find it here. This book's falling apart. Like I said, the photo is me on a sex license, right? So I decided to take out a copyright infringement, like abuse of my copyright material, because that's my photo. It was stolen from my house. Abuse of my copyright material, abuse of my moral rights, all the rest. So I'd researched this and I got documents that Anita Cobby, her family had sued Allen and Unwin for using a photograph, a family photograph, without consent, insinuating that the Cobby family had given it to them. So I got access to their particular documents. I copied them and made my own document and filed that in the federal court. And I did it in the Sydney registry, so they had no excuse of geography restrictions coming to the court. And I'd sued Allen and Unwin. I'd sued Lindsay Simpson, Sandra Harvey, and despite the accusation that Sandra Harvey was dead, which I don't think so, I sued because I can still sue her, what do they call that? Lost that word. I can still sue. She's still getting money from the sale of these books, so I can sue her, whatever they call that, whoever looks after the money. And I included Rex Walters, the alleged father, Pamela Walters, the alleged mother, who I'm suggesting is Elaine SLOWMAN, and I sued Lorraine Walters, who's the current wife of Rex Walters, who I'm guessing is one of Elaine SLOWMAN's daughters. I'm not certain, because they all look very similar. So in 2014, I made this application to the federal court. It was accepted. Allen and Unwin made an application to the court. They refused to file the defence in the appropriate time, Allen and Unwin and the other people. Pamela Walters never turned up at all to any of this. Rex Walters and all the rest, they all worked behind a lawyer. They all had lawyers to file documents for them. So despite that the lawyers did it, the lawyers do it on their behalf. So they perjure themselves in the court in their affidavit from the lawyer. But they applied to have the case dismissed on the basis of claiming that I had no evidence. And the judge, Justice KATZMANN, she ruled in my favour, saying that there was evidence and that the person that appeared in this book and the person who was in the newspaper as this person were not the same people. She said, you can see that the person in this book is an older person compared to the person in the newspaper. At that time, I hadn't realised, that they doctored photos for the newspaper, but we'll get to that. So at the same time in 2014, Lynette STYLES, alias Elaine SLOWMAN, she was allegedly creating a book, which you can't actually see it there. It's called Kangaroo Court. She'd plagiarised my website to get information about me, insinuating in her book Kangaroo Court that it was through her investigation that she had this information. On the front cover of this book, Kangaroo Court, is a picture of Wollondilly Shire Council. She claims that the subject of this book is from 1995 to 1999, where we're on council. It was not. She, as I said, she plagiarised my website. In my website, I said if I was going to write a book, I'd call it Kangaroo Court. So that's where she got the name of her book from. And she abused my moral rights from my website to claim all sorts of personal information about me, things that happened after I left council. She discussed when I come across this book in 2001, she discussed that as being when I was on council between 95 and 99, which of course it wasn't. And she discussed all other things about my de facto partner, Owen Hall, and my husband, William Peters. And she made all these comments and lied. She manipulated and perverted everything that I'd written in my website and used it as her information of fact in her book, Kangaroo Court. And who published that in, she self-published it, I can't remember the name, but I found it accidentally in 2020 when I did a Google search for Councillor Marina Vonsina, who's a lawyer. So I found it in 2020, and I discovered that in 2020, so from 2014 to 2020, this particular book was sitting inside the Wollondilly Shire Council Library at Picton on loan as truth. So that had been sitting there from 2014 to 2020. Was it 22? Can't remember exactly. A long time. So I asked them to remove it from the record because it's criminal defamation. And I tried to talk to them about what they'd done, and they blocked me, wouldn't talk to me, wouldn't give me any assistance, like wouldn't tell me where Lynette was, wouldn't tell me how it got into the library, wouldn't discuss anything, wouldn't print anything about it to address the fact that I'd been criminally defamed. So they supported Lynette STYLES over me. Now, let's have a little bit of a look into what happened on council when I was on council with Elaine SLOWMAN, alias Lynette STYLES. Lynette tried, in her book, claimed that she was the underdog, which was furthest from the truth. She was a total bitch. She was exactly how she was when she was at Visyboard. She would just abuse everyone, and that's what she used to do at Visyboard, and that's what she did at Wollondilly Shire Council. She's an abusive, obnoxious, narcissistic personality. But, you know, I just used to laugh at her and just never said anything nasty to her. I would just laugh at her and always go to my way to say, hello, Elaine, or hello, Lynette, how are you today? And I was always very nice to her because I know narcissistic people, that annoys the crap out of them when you're really nice to them. So I was always nice. I went out of my way to be nice to her. I was never sarcastic. I was always nice. And that's exactly how I am naturally. I'm the sort of person that's always nice to everyone. I walk into a building laughing and I greet people. That's how I am. Although I'm not so much lately because now I just don't talk to anyone. So nasty little Lynette STYLES during the council term, it apparently said something. There was always a constant argument between Christine Townsend and Councillor STYLES because they were both in the same election ward, and they were both at loggerheads with each other, or so they made it appear. I actually saw them being very friendly, and they both jumped and didn't realise I was watching. But I think it was a bit of an act that they were against each other. And for months and 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 months, Lynette STYLES was being told that she had to apologise to Christine Townsend, and if she didn't, she would be expelled from the meeting. And that went on for months, right? That's why she was an underdog. Apparently she called Townsend a lying bitch or something like that during the council meeting. I wasn't there. Don't know. And whenever they started going on, I'd get up and go to the toilet or get up and have a cup of coffee. I just did not want to be involved in the crap. I just don't like arguments and that sort of thing, so I stay right out of that crap. And so she made it as if she was the underdog and I was the one that was harassing her, right? I had nothing to do with her. Absolutely nothing to do with her. And she'd say everybody was picking on her, right? But she was in the same cliquey group with Marina Vonsina, Michael Bassett, the Labor Party person, and Helen Cooper, another Labor Party person. They had their cliquey group, and she was always caucusing with them. Always, she was their buddy. She was their best friend, right? So for her to say that she was segregated was crap, absolute crap, complete crap. So she was, in the end, she was just, I don't think she ever apologised. I don't know, but they illegally evicted me in 1999. I think it was about March. I can't remember. But I was pretty traumatised after being assaulted by Michael Banasic at the local government conference. He came into the local government conference when I was asleep. Councillor booked a bungalow which had rooms inside the bungalow with doors that didn't lock, they only closed. And it was like a family, like you'd have a family in this bungalow. So I was asleep in my room, and Banasic's wife was down the swimming pool, and nobody else was in the bungalow apparently. Banasic came into my room, lifted up my clothes to expose my chest because he believed, according to what was in this book, that he would see tattoos on my breast that said sweet and sour. He was convinced I was Leanne Walters because of what was in this book. So he pulled up my clothes to find these. And when he did, and he was rubbing something on my face, which I'm pretty sure was his penis, I woke up, saw him, and he ran from the room. So I was pretty frigging traumatised from that. And I'd gone to council and tried to deal with it quietly within council, and they refused to do anything. And then Lynette STYLES with the District Reporter, which is a Labor Party internet website, claimed that she was exposing some sort of indecency and put a photo of me there to make it look like that I was doing something to her. And they did that just before they evicted me from council legally. So I had no redress in 1999 because I didn't know about it. So when she published this book, that was in that newspaper, that internet District Reporter thing was in this book. And that's when when I saw that photo, that's when I realised, well, that's when they'd injected my nose and made my nose longer and done all sorts of things to me. And I remembered that photo was a bad hair day, but somebody had done something to my hair and made it really disgusting. I have naturally fuzzy hair. I have naturally curly hair. I have African ancestry, but since I've gone older, it's gone fuzzier. When I was younger, I could deal with it. In the 1990s, it wasn't like this unless it was raining. And they'd done something to my hair. If my hair was washed without conditioner, it would go fuzzy like this. And now I only use conditioner and it's fuzzy all the time. But I'm pretty sure they drugged me the night before that photo was taken and washed my hair without conditioner and made it really. I remember it feeling abnormal, like unusual. And that was the photo they chose to use in that book. And that's when I discovered that in 2022 or something like that, I can't remember. So so Styles done that in 2014, and I'm pretty sure that was in response to me filing the federal court application, because the federal court application I filed, I chose April Fool's Day because that was allegedly the date that was published. So I filed my application on the 1st of April in 2024. And I'm pretty sure Styles did her kangaroo court book in response to that. From what I can gather, I can't get much information on it because I got it like 6 years after it was done. So for 6 years it was sitting in the library in Picton defaming me, criminally defaming me. So I don't really know the origins, like the exact date. So I tried to sue her, and it was like 70 other people, including the three governments in 2022, I think it was, January 2022. It was like I've done half a law degree and I got high distinction in my defamation law assignment. Like there were three of us, but I did we split it up into three groups, and I did the matters that constitute like a defamation, and that was the longest part of the three groups. So, and we got a high distinction for that. So I know what defamation is under Australian law, like as a tort, I know. So I know I've defamed them. I know I've defamed many people, but I have an excuse in defamation. And in 2014, they were trying to use the what they call it, Mental Health Act orders to stop me from harming myself from defamation. I want to stop. I don't want to. The idea is to provoke them to sue me for defamation because I've got excuses in defamation, right? If it's in the public interest and it's to defend their defamations of me, right? So I've got a lawful excuse for defence of defamation. Doesn't matter if they sue me. They can sue me, that's fine. The Mental Health Act isn't designed to stop people from taking out defamation actions, right? If somebody's going to defame themselves, they've got a right to do that. I've got a right to defame other people because that's my defence from them defaming me. I have a lawful right to defend myself from other defamation claims against me. And that's what I've been doing in my websites. And I know I've defamed people. I know it. I have a legal excuse for defaming them. That's why they won't sue me. And that's why they used the Mental Health Act in 2014 to imprison me and render me an unreliable witness by saying I'm schizophrenic delusional. So in 2000 and as we know, I won't rehash that. So in 2022, I'd tried to sue them, and the Federal Court Registrar in Canberra, because I filed it in the Canberra Registry, the Federal Court Registrar refused to accept my application and defamation. Now, I'd used that application. I'd copied the Jeffrey Rush case, and I'd substituted myself. I didn't do it verbatim. I did it because obviously cases are different. But I'd used that as a blueprint, the Jeffrey Rush application or defence, whatever. I'd used that as a blueprint. So I knew it was legally correct, but they refused to accept the application, claiming on the basis of something in an affidavit, but I hadn't filed an affidavit. So about 12 months later, I'd asked the dickhead across the road to remove his spotlights from down my driveway. If you've seen any of my thingos, he's been doing that since 2016. So he contacted his Freemason mates down the local police station, and they come out to terrorise me and threaten me under the Mental Health Act for imprisonment, saying I was harassing him. But they tried to make it out as if they were there because I'd written a letter to my local Member of Parliament, Christopher Pigton. But that letter I'd written to him was 6 months before, so it wasn't possibly. It was because I told the bloke across the road I'd threatened to take action against him if he didn't remove his floodlights and his cameras from my driveway. So the police come out. The state government sent 4 people out to harass me because I tried to exercise my legal rights. So this is shit goes in Australia. So that's why I printed this one. The prime terrorist organisation in Australia is the Labor Party and the Freemasons. It's only a very small book. But what it is it's an actual account verbatim of the words that were stated by the police and the mental health officers who tried to imprison me on the anniversary of my rape when I was a toddler on the 3rd of March in 2023. So that was 2023. So like I said, I've written constant letters to people in government trying to get them to resolve this, letters to the media to get them to publish this so I can attract a lawyer to help me. I've tried to publish advertisements in the national newspapers seeking lawyers to sue on these matters, but the newspapers refused to take my advertisements, claiming that I was defaming other people by asking for lawyers to sue the government. So there you are. This is Australia. Australia is not a democracy. Australia is a dictatorship. It's a totalitarian regime, and it's orchestrated, or it's controlled by the Labor Party, the Liberal Party, and the Freemasons as a tripartisan group. There is no democracy in Australia. This is my book that was published in this year. I've done about 6 books this year. This was one of the first ones I did. All the books that I've done this year so far are basically all the same. I'd done this with lots of pictures. The pictures are basically documents to prove my case, and I've described them. But I realised after I published this that apart from there being a grammar error on basically one of the first pages, like I left a word in that I meant to take out, I'd done a pagination problem in it. And so I redid it again, and that's what the Taurus rising is. It's basic. This is basically the first version of Taurus rising. I do like that. So, and I did actually get 20 copies of these or something like, and I was going to pass them around to the people in government. But I've given a copy to Christopher Picton, and he's decided not to respond to me at all. I've contacted the South Australian head of the Liberal Party, who recently said he's had a gutful and walked out of the leadership of the Liberal Party in South Australia. But he hasn't gotten back to me either. He's a lawyer. And I'm pretty sure he was one of the lawyers that represented the respondents when I'd sued jointly the Labor Party and the Liberal Party. I think it was 2006 or 2007. And I'm pretty sure Mr. Spears was the lawyer for the Liberal Party when I did that in the Magistrates Court in Adelaide. So I'm quite willing to talk to the enemy if I can get what I need to get done. This is the first volume of Taurus Rising. Then I did Taurus Rising. And Taurus Rising is basically mostly colour. So this one is smaller text in Taurus Rising, which was 600 pages, something like that. And all colour and very expensive, about $100 to print. So I did this one, which has only got some, not all the photos. But some photos, they're all grayscale. And this one's the abridged version. Hasn't got anything about the theft of my real estate, which is actually documented in here in Taurus Rising. So Taurus Rising is my favourite book, but it's $100. That's why I allowed it on ebook for $4, so everybody can access it. It's $4. That's on Amazon Australia. The Taurus Rising, it's a red cover on the ebook. It's a blue cover on the paperback and a green cover on the hard copy. So that's the story in the books. But the books themselves tell a whole lot. And Taurus Rising is probably the best one, $4. You want to know the truth about Australia? Get Taurus Rising in the ebook on Amazon, $4.